Welcome back to the Next Gen Prophets podcast. I am your host, your mentor, and big sister, Deborah-Anne Velthuysen, and we are wrapping up this incredible series with our undercover evangelist and apostle, Caleb Wampler. Thank you again for being with us. This has been a phenomenal series so far.
Round 3, here we go.
Round 3, we wrap it up. Now, Next Gen Prophets, you know your big sis and you know your big brother, so we are going to make this super practical for you. But before we jump in to this podcast, www.myprophetictribe.com. Go book your free consultation. We want to know your name. We want to know about your process. We want to give you language to your process, and we want to accelerate you in your destiny. So make sure you've booked your consultation and you've connected with us personally. Now, Apostle Caleb, we have been having so much fun. I want to wrap this up. I want to make this super practical for our audience who's been listening in. They've been receiving this double impartation. So let's talk about, how do they know if they're called either to do this apostolic work or serve someone who is pioneering this apostolic work?
Yeah, this isn't as complicated as people think. And one is, if you have an encounter with God and he calls you, then you respond to it and go.
Listening.
You have to respond to the call. It's very clear. If you don't know if you're called and you haven't ever had an experience or been around it, then get around some people that are doing this. Because I found so often that things are caught, not taught. You can receive and have somebody teach you into what it means to being an evangelist, and you might understand what an evangelist is supposed to do, but you're never really gonna. No. But when you go to a crusade and you go to a missions trip and you're activated and there's a deliverance tent and people need healing and and you're part of a team where you're all working together, you go, oh my goodness, the Lord just called me to Africa. He called me to Australia. He called me to Antarctica for all I know. But I know that I'm supposed to do this, but it happens by being there. Why do people all of a sudden get a passion for feeding the homeless? It's because they went out and fed the homeless and they were part of a Christmas drive or a Thanksgiving drive and they helped people, and all of a sudden their heart broke for the homeless. And you tend to catch what you're around. So if you're around this kind of stuff and your heart isn't breaking and burdening for it, then you're probably not called in that type of area. But Jesus will very clearly direct you and call you, and the supernatural angels are working on assignment to facilitate putting you in the right service, the right setting, the right serving opportunity, where all of a sudden you're like, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm supposed to go on this missions trip. It's pouring in my heart. I know I'm supposed to. Why? Because something that's on that missions trip is going to capture your heart. God's trying to level you up in a certain area or prepare an environment for that opportunity to be called.
I love what you said there. It's something on that missions trip that is going to activate the call in you. And prophets, I hope you're catching this, because there are so many of you, and I know this because I've spoken to so many of you, but also because I'm picking it up in the spirit. You've been asking God, where am I called to serve? What am I supposed to do? And you've been sitting around, you've been praying, you've been interceding, you've been asking God every time you pray, what am I called to do? And your pastor keeps saying, hey, I want you to come help out here. And you're like, I don't think I'm called to that. Is there anything else? Hey, I need you to come out here. I don't think I'm called to that. Your kid's school calls you up and says, hey, can you help out here? And you're like, I'm a bit busy. I don't know if I'm called to that. Go do it. God is providing you with opportunities that are going to activate and confirm that call within you, because from your mother's womb, you have been formed. From your mother's womb, you have been processed for this, but you're never going to know until you step out. One other thing I love to tell my prophets is that if you can get out on the water, God can send the wind to direct your sails. But until you're out there, you're just a boat docked and you're not going anywhere. You can have big dreams, but if you get out on that water, God will let you know whether those dreams are a reality or you just need to go back to sleep again.
Well, and faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word. Sometimes just hearing about an opportunity, you might need somebody else to nudge you in that, and that's fine. I'm reminded of our recent trip to Tanzania. There, we casted vision to our partners that we're going to Africa, and we're going to bring 30 people with us. And so this husband and wife hear it. The wife is excited off the charts for this opportunity. The husband, I've never been out of the country. I've never been on a flight. I don't know if I can eat. Like, he has no desire to go. It's to appease his wife. He loves supporting the ministry. He loves to be around it. He even loves what God's doing and like watching the videos and stories and telling people about it. But going, no way. But his wife's going. So he's like, he has to go now. They go on the trip. And when he's telling his testimony afterwards, he's deeply impacted, but he couldn't even hardly get through telling about his testimony because of what happened. And now he feels called to go on missions trips every year. There's a deeper work of missions in his heart. The Lord is doing something deep, but it was because he needed a couple of nudges, but he had to actually go to say yes. Prior to going, terrified, going on an airplane, going out of the country. While being there, he looked like a kid in a candy store. Yeah. Everything's exciting. Like he couldn't stop praying for people. Yeah. He's casting out demons. He's praying for the sick. He's loving on people, giving hugs. Like, but it all came alive in the environment. He had to change his environment from just where he was in his safe working environment here in his state that he was in to being on the field and actually seeing it. But he needed a push, and he said yes.
Come on. Now, I know we touched on this a little bit in the previous podcast, and you just touched on it again. But what are some environments or some ways people can change up their environment to begin sussing out where they're called?
Well, okay, let's just do it this way. If I am fat and out of shape and I don't want, and I know that I need to change something, I need to hang around people that are seeing a breakthrough in their life in that area. Why? Because when I get around those people, if I'm around the 5 people in my life that are getting fitness and that's all they're doing and they're losing weight and building muscle, all of a sudden I'm going to start picking up on what they're doing. It's like that with millionaires. If I'm going to hang out with 5 millionaires, then I'm going to be the 6th millionaire. Why? Because I'm going to implement the processes of what they're doing. This is very practical, but we make it so complicated. We just got to do the steps that they're doing, take the investments that they're doing, and all of a sudden we're going to be in the same place. If you see something in your life that is not where you want to be, find somebody who else is already there and ask for directions. Asking for directions can be a literal question like, hey, can I take you to coffee and just ask you some questions? Or it can just be like, hey, do you mind if I just come serve you? Volunteer. I want to see what you're doing. And all of a sudden you're in the environment that they're naturally in. And all of a sudden you're catching it. And if there's something on there that's a grace for you in that area, it's going to be real obvious real quick that that's the step you're supposed to take.
Guys, find your tribe. Find your tribe and find your voice. You know, the theme of our podcast tour this year was Unleash Your Roar, because we believe that when you unleash your roar, very much like the lion, not only does that roar echo for miles, but other lions will hear it and roar back. And when you guys do that, when you begin to step out, whether it's in your community, maybe it's like the example I used earlier, it's your kid's school. Maybe you're going to start volunteering at your kid's school. Maybe there's a local homeless shelter or food pantry. Maybe it's your local church in communities and they're just having events. You don't necessarily have to commit to like a leadership position right away. Just find places where you can begin practicing the gifts. Start practicing a little bit of prophecy. Start practicing a little bit of healing, a little bit of faith, a little bit of long suffering. Just start practicing all of these different gifts, stepping out, getting a little uncomfortable. Because when we're a little uncomfortable, then we begin to understand where we fit in and where we don't. And you begin to find the like voices that are going to guide you in the right path.
And there's something about sowing into and reaping also, because if you don't know what you're supposed to do, just volunteer for something that your pastor says at your church or someone in your community. But there's an element too about sowing into something. Like once I give money into a food shelter and a homeless shelter and I volunteer my time to serve the food for the homeless, I'm now putting my time and my money into something. And all of a sudden I'm catching vision and heart for it because I'm sowing into it. So there's something about sowing into prophetic ministry, sowing into apostolic ministry, sowing into evangelism, like you tend to catch the things you sow into. Why? Because your heart's attached to it and you begin to reap in that area also.
Come on. I'm really loving this vision. Let's go a little bit deeper. I want to talk about, you talked about how, get with people who've been where they are. We want to talk about finding the right voices. How do we begin to find the right voices? Because let's be honest, we live in a very interesting deposition in the body of Christ. We've got a lot of voices out there, a lot of false prophets, false teachers, false apostles. They may even speak the right words They may play the right game. They have the charisma. But how do we begin really differentiating between the right voices when it comes to figuring out who do we begin asking for help with?
It really just, it's not as complicated as we think. We need the discerning of spirits, and there's a spiritual element, but you just look at fruit. And for those that are, maybe don't have as much fruit because they're newer, okay, time will tell, but you need fruit. You just look at the fruit. What is the fruit of those that come around the ministry? What is the fruit of those that are coming around this teaching? Are the people that come around this teaching, are they all mad at the church? Because this is one I see often. Well, the church just needs to do this and the church just needs to do that. But like, they're seeing healing and they're seeing deliverance, but they're mad at the church all the time. Well, they're being recreated by those that they're listening to, that the church is the problem. No. Well, yeah, there might be things wrong within the church, but Jesus literally says that the church is his vehicle, that the gates of hell will not prevail against.
Come on, speak the truth.
And that the church has to be in unity in order for the fulfillment of all the things that he wants to happen to come. And so, like, I don't want to badmouth and speak against, well, my pastor's the problem. Your pastor's the problem. You just need to go to that's the fruit. If the fruit of everybody come around this place is like, it's love, 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 that's great. Yeah. Maybe there's no power in that one. Okay. They're all love. There's no power in it though. Okay. Then these people are all power, but there's no love in it. Like, you start looking at the fruit. And if you see something that is attaching to what the Lord is bringing you into, there's fruit that's remaining. There's stories, there's testimony, there's life, there's souls, there's freedom. Like, okay, maybe they're not batting 1,000. Nobody does, but there's fruit that remains. And so that's the best thing I would do to check. There's a lot of people that write a bunch of negative stuff out there, news articles, there's always going to be a negative review, even at a 5-star restaurant. Like, nobody bats 1,000 all the time, but like, is the general fruit that's coming from this healthy, wholesome, nourishing, or is there something off and funky and decaying about the fruit?
Yep. And sometimes, guys, you just got to take a risk.
Yeah.
You know what? Something my apostle always used to teach me. It's like, rather love and get hurt than be unhurt and never love. Love is the source of our power, especially if you're called to be a prophet. Love is the source of your call. It is of your power. It is where we come from, because Jesus is love. And if you want to know your heavenly Father, if you want to have that face-to-face relationship with Jesus, love, get your heart broken a little. Can we say that? I know it's hard to hear this, especially for you prophetic types. And I know I'm hitting on some stuff for you guys today, but hear me. As one who's been through, who's had her heart broken, who's had betrayals. I mean, come on, Caleb, you know this as much as I do. You don't be in ministry this long and do these kinds of works without getting your heart broken a little bit of backstabbing, a few Jezebels, a few Absaloms. It happens, guys. This is ministry, and not just ministry. This is life. Y'all don't be real. You all had that one friend in high school that was jattering behind your back, that was playing the game. You all know there's those people. This is life. But I would rather love and get your heart broken a little bit so that I grow closer to Jesus than to remain stone-walled and separate and alone for the rest of my life. Prophetic rejection is not an excuse not to love. Church hurt, spiritual abuse is not an excuse not to love and pour out to God's people. Because if you pour out, if you love, because that's why you go to that homeless shelter. That's why you go to that food pantry. That's why you go and serve in your communities and at your children's school, because you love your children, because you love your community, because you love that old granny down the road who needs help getting her groceries every week. So go, love, invest, and get your heart broken. Learn and grow from it. From there, you're going to begin to see that deposition of grace and anointing double inside of you every single time. Sit there for a minute and say, Father, where can I serve today? How can I pour out today? What can I do to see your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven? Now, as we wrap up, I have one last question for you. I asked you this question last year, but I know a lot's happened since then. What is one final piece of advice you would like to leave for the next generation?
It's really important that you sow your life into people and give your all. So often we focus on our call. And this is, I think, where a lot of times in ministry and those that have fivefold callings miss it. It's that we make it all about our call versus actually the person that we're ministering to. The breakthrough isn't about you having your call, even though we want to be the hero of our story. It's that Jesus is the hero of our story through us in somebody else's life. We want to do everything we can to make us not the focus of the miracles and the healings and the deliverances and the callings and the prophecies and all the stuff. We want them to be, to see Jesus through their story. And so really what we're doing is we're just conduits to allow him to flow through us. So what would be my advice? It'd be to stop making it all about you, make it all about Jesus and them, and let him get the glory from every story.
Guys, this has been the Undercover Apostle Caleb Wampler. Thank you for joining us in this series. Guys, check out his podcast, Awaken the Wonder. You can find the link in the show notes below. Check out his book, Hunger, again, in the show notes below. I hope you were blessed. I know I was blessed. Thank you for joining us in this series. I know we'll be back again next year, so expect us to be knocking on your door again soon, sir. And guys, sign up for the Next Gen Prophet Summit. But also, if you have enjoyed this series, if you've been blessed by our podcast, consider supporting us. Consider partnering with us. We've got some giving information in the show notes below. Partner with us. Let us reach more. We are reaching over 100 and I believe 93 countries with this podcast. Not to mention beginning to sponsor others needing to go through mentorship and training who cannot afford it. So help us continue this vision. Help us sponsor this vision. There's giving information in the show notes below. But for now, this is your big sister tuning out. I will see you next week in the podcast. Bye for now.